The forge has gone quiet, the bellows blow no more. The forge has gone quiet, the smiths have gone home. Only fading embers remain, and my hearth grows cold. One kiss from you to rekindle it all.
Are we on?
We are. So we're back with Queen of Embers, episode 6. Where we last left off, the boat had pitched everyone to the deck as it came upon the silty shore of the Bastards River in the middle of Durendal, throwing everyone down to the ground, throwing the horse down, throwing the remaining slaver down, and the Pictish captain of this ship, a ruthless Pictish man named Druce, managed to inflict some lasting injuries upon some and almost slew Alistair. Alistair, you're going to gain a drawback called Nemesis, which means you and Druce are now mortal enemies. So what will happen in this case is, should you and Druce ever encounter one another again, you cannot use fate points or fortune points to change the result of your rolls. The same goes for him. He cannot use misfortune points in his case. It'll be a fight to the death. You gain a nemesis. Slaver number 3 somehow is like the lone survivor. And quickly as you kind of collect yourselves, you realize that the children are beginning to they've kind of been awoken from their drugged slumber, and are whining. They're clearly upset, unsure of what's going on, confused. There are people gathered around along the shore because you all kind of like lost consciousness for probably just a few minutes as you got knocked down to the ground from the ship. You're kind of collecting yourselves and picking yourselves up, and they're already fighting the fire.
I'm about to say, yeah. Can I do anything about the fire?
Well, you awaken, and you're kind of being hit in the face with sand and silt as they're taking buckets and trying to squelch the fire with sand from the side thing. And you realize that you've when you come ashore, can't, because it'll burn the rest of the city down, because it's literally within not too far from this collection of other boats. Like, there are other boats kind of around it, because you didn't quite hit the stilts of the big building on the side of the river.
Barely missed it.
Yeah, which is good. It's good.
You crashed gracefully.
You crashed gracefully. But it's clear that this has been happening for the past couple minutes as you kind of shake your heads and kind of shake away the fuzz and the haze of what's happening. Alistair begins to pick himself off the ground. You kind of snap out of it at this point, uncertain of what's happened.
Well, if we know it's going to burn, we'll help.
I'm definitely helping. I'm definitely helping put that out.
Terwin, drowsy and coming to, looks around and looks to see if the slaver's still nearby.
You look around for where the slaver may be, but it seems that he has slipped away into the night.
And then after that, he's gonna watch the people fighting the fire, and he's gonna sit there and stare at that fire for quite a long time. As he seems to be mulling things over in his head.
As every flame is snuffed, as every cinder is squelched, as every lick of the fire is snuffed out by the sand and the silt, you feel your spirit waning. The foresters oftentimes find their strength or spirit in the flame. Terwin is kind of drawn into this. Warren is clearly nowhere nearby, nor is Amadeus. Still, the Leviathan's eye, burning blue, watches over all in the night. However, it is almost morning. You can see, almost like an eyelid, a sliver of yellow light on the horizon in the east.
I'm going to drag myself onto the shore and sort of crawl to a place where I can catch my breath away from the soot and the smoke.
Okay.
Still obviously clearly like far from okay.
The smoke is stinging everyone's eyes as you're kind of coughing, as you're fighting the flames. Alistair's crawled away. You're kind of amidst the tall reeds on the side of the river. It's a chilly morning, and you're soaked to the bone and wounded and confused and hurt. It doesn't take long, however, for you to hear the rumbling of hooves. That only means one thing. Brigandine is coming.
Good. We need their help. Is the ship still sellable?
You are not shipwright. It's still smoldering right now. It'd be hard to really determine quite yet. You could probably hire someone to take a look. But you can see on the side of the crates there are these two kind of what look like symbols of vipers on the side of it. Not quite like Cobra, not like Cobra from G.I. Joe, but like there are two kind of like profiles of vipers. And the symbol kind of begins to strike a memory within all of you, being members of the Dufresne. The persistent viper is a group of slavers who have been once very, very active in the Rovane girdle, have mostly been pushed out of these lands. For the persistent viper to be as so bold on a night such as Penumbra speaks one of two things: either they are on the rise again, or they were taking advantage of the fact that of the superstition of the people. As far as you know, their numbers have been hanged, dragged, drowned, beaten to death in the streets. Slavery in itself is seen as the worst form of crime, the worst type of crime at least. But it does kind of strikes you as odd that they would have any activity in the girdle at all.
Once the flames out, I would take a look towards Matthew.
Well, it takes a while for the flames to go out there. I mean, they're literally fighting a fire as we speak.
Right. I didn't know if we were past that.
No. Matthew has clearly been pitched to the ground. He is probably lightly wounded.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll give him a lot of educate.
Well, you can do that, but you must administer 3. Anytime you administer something, anytime you administer any sort of treatment to an animal, it requires 3 of the reagents.
Right.
So 3 bandages, 3 laudanum, 3 smelling salts,
etc.
3 tincture to treat injuries, etc., etc.
Yeah.
And he is still hoofing it too, so he's still suffering from that injury. I put it over here because it wasn't quite implicable, but I would note. I mean, there's actually one that actually is pretty busy. I think we chose the moderate one. There's one here that's pretty fitting, but I think what we'll do is just let's give him a bone bruise. That seems to make the most sense.
Right.
Yeah. So the fire is slowly being kind of snuffed out, and morning is coming, and you can feel the dawn rising over the city, and almost like a crescent of flame, almost like the light of the sun banishes the darkness, banishes penumbra, banishes the night that was filled with no light save for that burning blue star. And the strangeness of this evening that kind of hung over everyone, the superstition and the oddity and such, it seems to almost be kind of pushed away as light and dawn rises over Dorendo, over the city. The Brigandine soldiers arrive as you can hear the hoofs kind of come to a stop. Moving down the side of the silty shore, kind of grabbing up on the reeds, passing by Alistair, in fact, is this man who appears to be mostly bald, save for the fact he has these incredibly wiry gray eyebrows and this almost Anton Szandor LaVey sort of styled, like a Van Dyke beard, I guess you would call it. He's wearing head to toe. He's bound in brigandine armor, named for the very armor they wear, and he appears to have some sort of military emblem, perhaps on his collar. He wears a short mantle over one shoulder, his shield arm, and at his side he has a mortuary sword. He and his lieutenants are descending down the side of the sandy banks. He's accompanied by a man and a woman. They come down toward the ship at this point, and you're kind of assessing the situation. You immediately know that they are without a doubt brigandine. They're military people. They are empowered by the Baroness as watchmen of the city, which is unusual because it's not, oftentimes watchmen are pulled literally from the local folk, but to have a military watch is probably very costly to the Baroness's coffers. But nonetheless, after what had happened three years ago on this very night, and perhaps still fearing for her life, she is probably beginning to spend a lot of money on ensuring that brigandine stays in place to patrol the city. And without a doubt, almost kind of what you would expect of a military person, they begin clearing away the people and begin zeroing in on all of you.
Right.
Oh.
Flash the badge.
Show my badge.
He narrows his eyes for a moment, and he kind of almost, it takes him a moment for him to kind of like understand as he has his hand on the sword, and he begins to say, Dufresne Agency?
Aye.
That's right,
us.
sir. We
Mike, glad to see you.
we stopped some slavers.
You stopped slavers, you say? He says in a very clear, kind of baritone, Aridane.
I'll point to the only one. I'll point to the dead body that got flung onto the. I mean, that's the only thing. It's the only thing.
Yeah, there's a couple dead bodies that are.
There's one. There's two more back at the orphanage.
Is this your man over here? He points toward Alistair.
Yeah, Alistair's with us. The lieutenant's back over here. He's taken, like Alistair, he's taken some very bad wounds.
He's your lieutenant?
Yeah.
He turns
Karen
about.
Forrester.
He turns about at this point. He continues to walk. You notice immediately he does not wear spurs. He is no knight. He is clearly it's like the most dangerous thing, like after war times, to have a soldier left without employment. They will turn to banditry and plundering. And maybe part of the reason why brigandine, after the invasion of the Marcher Lords, were empowered to patrol Durandal.
Right.
It's because they have lit till.
That's right. The Final Fantasy tactics, the Death Core.
Till money.
Money.
Yeah, it was really slow.
Yeah, the load. So the man approaches Terwin and says, "On your feet. What's happened? What's happened here?"
Terwin.
What's your name? He says first off.
Terwin is staring off into the fire almost catatonically.
Hey! He says as he shakes you.
Terwin immediately is brought out, and he just looks up at the man.
You alright?
Hang on!
He can't.
And,
he can't
He
hear.
kind of looks toward the ear, and he doesn't seem to really grimace. He just kind of shakes his head, gritting his teeth.
I know what to do. As he digs in his pack and he takes out a tincture.
Just slap that tincture on the side of your head.
He's gonna drink that tincture.
Yeah, I'm gonna drink the tincture, and
you can feel its soothing numbness kind of pass through you as you will ignore the effects of your injury for 24 hours, but you gain 1 corruption. You kind of. Oh, by the way, those who suffered grievous injuries suffer 9 corruption.
Oh boy!
I should have or gain 9 corruption.
Yeah, you're right.
That. Those are the things that they tend to last. So is
Scar the mind.
Yeah.
You literally almost died.
You come to your feet and kind of take stock of what's happening, and there's enough light in the sky at this point as the night is being banished, and the blue star penumbra is kind of like almost like retreating in the darkness.
Oh,
You're a lieutenant. You have a name.
yeah. Lieutenant Forster, Terwin Forster.
Sergeant Reich, he says.
It's a pleasure to meet you.
This is Emma. This is Roger.
Pleasure to meet you. Forgive my, if I had ignored you. Well, obviously you shook me. Forgive me for ignoring you.
You appear to be hurt. Maybe we should get you back to the watchtower. We could talk to all of you there.
That would be good. We need to see about someone else's safety, though. We need to see about a man named Amadeus.
We could talk about that back in the watchtower, he says.
We need to get the children back too.
You can already. So the one thing I should note that you're kind of collecting yourselves and realize what's happening. That clearly some sort of local parishioner, a monk perhaps, has begun to kind of bring the children ashore along with some of the people in the city. Because there's probably a good number of onlookers here. Probably maybe like 20-ish or so onlookers kind of coming out to see what's happening. Basically looky-loos.
We can't trust them.
The sergeant kind of arches his eyebrow. What?
Well, that's
They
how
were
they got
involved
in
in
the first
it.
place.
It is true. They were posing as parishioners.
Well, we can discuss all this back at the watchtower. Come on, let's go.
We're just
We'll
saying,
take care of you. Emma,
Maybe-
help him along.
What about the children?
the children should be taken back by some brigand.
Emma, Roger, stay behind. I'll take them back to the watchtower. Yes, sir, Emma says. Roger nods.
Why are we going to this watchtower? We have men at the orphanage still that we need to make sure are okay.
Excuse me. I don't think we. As he'll lower his voice, he'll say, "I don't think we have a choice in this matter."
All right, boss.
Otherwise, I would have put up a fuss, but we don't. I don't think we do, and he's still being nice.
The man looks down and says, "You need a hand?"
I'll shake my head at him, and even though it's very difficult to do, I'll make my way up to my feet, sort of like awkwardly on the beach, sort of stumbling to my feet like a drunk.
You can see that Alistair as the light begins to kind of open, as dawn kind of chases away the vault of night, as Algol, the sun, begins to illuminate the world. It's still a chilly autumn morning, not to where you can see your breath, but it's on the verge of that. But in the light, Alistair he looks like he stepped out of a horror film. I mean, he's just covered in slashes of blood. Some of it's his, some of it's someone else's. He looks in wretched shape, as does Lieutenant Terwin. Terwin looks like he's in really bad shape as well.
I'm going to dig into my pack and actually grab a laudanum out and offer it to Alistair.
Well, normally I abstain, but I'll make an exception.
How
I
about
quit
yourself,
the junk.
Forster? You want one of them too?
I think this is a bit more important at the moment.
Alright.
I'll look at the
As he points to his ear.
soldier
Right.
who's staring at all my wounds, and I'll tell him you should have seen the other guy.
She smiles.
I'll help Alistair up the side of the
So
bank.
if you take a laudanum, you gain 1 corruption. However, you move 1 step up, the damage unit is tracked positively.
Just go ahead and mark that.
I don't
The other way.
think it's possible at this point.
There's a Dunish limerick. It's pop the bottle, partake of the potion, lead the steed in a 3-hoof motion. As you can feel your feet kind of swell beneath of you, and almost a slight sense of vertigo. Then there's this kind of placidness that kind of overtakes you, Alistair, as the world seems to almost kind of level out for just in your kind of drugged state after imbibing the laudanum.
Yeah, no,
Grab the reins from Matthew and start following.
Yeah, Matthew is limping up on 1 hoof. Matthew's clearly been injured as well, but you begin to head.
Slavish. All right, I'm done.
As we're walking, I'll approach Alistair and I'll put my hand on his shoulder and I'll say, "I thought we lost you."
Oh, you ain't getting rid of me that easy.
Good, I need you.
You know that.
No.
You don't look like you look like kind of a pile of shit yourself, boy.
Well, I feel terrible. I should have stayed with you. I took cover, and I don't feel too proud of it.
I didn't see that. What I saw was that the rocking of the waves knocked us all about quite a ways. Plus, I tried to fist fight a bullet.
Yeah. I mean,
I
don't suppose you should bring a fist to a gunfight, huh?
But I ain't got no guns to bring to no gunfight, so
me neither.
I'm gonna keep bringing my fists. The gun should be a better host.
So clearly, Banneker's concerned about the safety and well-being of Amadeus and the children, and Warren for that matter. But you were escorted through the city, and the city almost seems to come to life, almost like a flower's petals opening after the dawn. The city began to kind of pour out. People begin to pour out, almost like in the state of confusion. Imagine like if you've been away on vacation from work for a long time, then you kind of come back, and as you did like during turn of January, and you're like, you spend the first few hours like, oh yeah, this is kind of what life was kind of like before I took vacation. Everybody this morning seems to be in kind of a strange sense of bewilderment and confusion, so afraid of penumbra as they were. There's this kind of this sense of like things aren't quite back to normal, like the normal traffic in the streets. You're not hearing wheels rumble down the cobblestone or the snorting of horses, or even the belabored movement of stevedores and others who'd be moving throughout Durendal. Instead, there's just these people kind of almost standing about, not listlessly, but having smaller conversations about the night before, and you can kind of overhear some of what they're talking about. One man says, I put 3 bent nails across my threshold. The other one says, I saw something moving through the night. The other one says, I saw green lights on the horizon. The other one says, I made a wish upon the Leviathan's eye, and I hope that she returns to me. Along the way, as you're passing through what clearly is the edge of Slum Row, you see what looks like very lurid-looking graffiti, portraying a man penetrating a woman with a crown on her head. You were taken to there's this wall that's going to be it's kind of just literally like graffitied that way, and appears to be recent. For there's a bucket of paint there, and they have 2 youths with their hands behind their heads like this, pointed toward the wall. As I remember, a brigandine is literally holding, one of them is holding a whip curled up in hand. The other one is lashing them to a rope to take them into the dungeon of the watchtower. But as you approach the watchtower, you realize exactly how formidable this place is. It's almost like a small, one called castle by any means, but it is a small keep. It is about a 3-story squat kind of hexagonal tower, not hexagonal, my apologies, tower that kind of wider at the base and narrower toward the top, with crenellations along the very edges and very slender windows within. The place looks very formidable and looks like it was built recently. Sergeant Reich will take you all inside and ask that they will not ask for your weapons, obviously, but they will water, bread, salt.
Please.
Oh, please.
Unsurprisingly, these military men of Brigandine offer bread and salt, which is the universal symbol for, there's nothing bad that will happen between us. You're not really sure of the relationship between the Dufresne Agency and the Brigandine. This is your first encounter with them. You have not crossed paths yet. Still fresh to the city. The first group of Dufresne, in fact, to operate openly in Durendal.
How's that working out so far?
Not so good, but hey, we saved some kids.
Well, we came in with a bang, right?
Yeah.
So he takes you to his offices, probably somewhere deeper within the tower keep, maybe 2nd or 3rd floor. He will do you the injustice of at least closing the shutters so the light from the east does not blind you as you walk in. It's a poorly placed window. But it does happen to overlook the Bastards River, and you can even see parts of Slum Row surrounding this, on the edges of this watchtower. There's some kind of a low din of sound coming from within from others, but you're not really sure how many people are in here. He will sit behind this massive mahogany desk that looks like probably was not his. It looks like a little too fancy. Maybe they had seized it from maybe they put somebody in a debtor's prison and seized it for themselves. But other than that, the trappings in this room appear to be very Spartan. He will remove his sword belt and hang it over the edge of his chair with the back. And he'll please sit.
Thank you.
But none of us have bags.
That's right. Do you mind if I smoke? He asks.
Your place.
Your keep.
He will open a small port window and he'll begin to light a pipe and he will talk to you.
Well, I don't mind. If you're even inclined to share, I'd be less than minded. I'd be grateful.
He nods. He'll agree.
Yeah.
I'll pack you a pipe. So, Dufresne Agency in my city. What brings you to Durendal?
Orders.
That's right. We received orders. We was hired by Madeline Dupre.
You mean the Baroness? He corrects you very quickly.
Forgive my manners. As soon as it left me mouth, yeah, the Baroness. Any stories I heard about her was from my grandfather. They didn't seem to keep the same formalities. So, forgive me, I'm sorry.
He nods.
Alright. Last night we were helping a feller out by the name of Amadeus. I can't quite remember his last name. We just met him the last
Chandler?
Chandler.
He says, almost fishing
Yes.
for a moment.
Yeah, Amadeus Chandler.
The
He's
name
helping
is
him light the
yes.
street lamps.
He says he kind of nods, almost cutting you off as he goes over to a nearby shelf and begins to pull out what appears to be a volume, a book. Chandler, Amadeus, he's a bell guard. He works for the Baroness.
Right?
Yeah.
We was helping him lighten those street lamps, repair them and whatnot. When we came up to resupply at the orphanage.
Well, hold on. You were sent by the Dufresne Agency to meet with Chandler.
Yes.
Well,
To light lamps.
He was our first contact. We just got into the city yesterday.
That's what the Baroness wants.
As
I would
Chandler,
say we was haven't been in the city for what, 24 hours, not even?
no, as Chandler would put it, it was very important that she make a show to all people of the city that it is important that all people are important to her.
He will take he'll take what appears to be like a ribbon in the book and kind of place it down and kind of rest upon it. So, Mr. Chandler, you know then that he is no mere lamplighter.
Well, I do now, but I don't know what he is.
Can I see your orders?
Chandler has them. Oh, Dufresne orders?
He nods.
Yeah, Lieutenant's got no papers.
Yeah. Here you are.
He will read through them. So, Master Alexei sent you, he says. He'll hand it back.
Thank you.
I don't know much you know about Durendal. Welcome, he says.
Real sort.
A bit of spirits? He inquires with Alistair.
Alistair will raise his eyebrows and nod.
He doesn't smile, but he turns around and goes over to his what appears to be like a filing drawer. He pulls one of the pulls one of the drawers out and pulls out a decanter that clearly he has seized at some point, and he will pour you a touch of spirits. Well, I don't know how much you know about Durendal. Welcome, I suppose. No less. As you may not be aware, the Baroness, of course, this is her city. And yes, indeed, she has ordered that all of the street lamps be lit on Penumbra every year since, I'm sure you at least know, at the bare minimum, know about Master Hexenstern and the going-ons with that.
The attempt on the lady's life.
That's right. Our captain, our Lord Commander, when the city was elevated to her council, And we, Brigandine, after returning from the war, were appointed as protectors of the city. We are throughout most of the major districts. We keep watch, obviously, and do as the Baroness wishes. Save for us, you must also know that in the city there are the other group that is empowered by the Baroness, or the Belguards. Master Chandler is a Belguard, he says plainly.
What exactly are Belguards?
Belguards are charged with ensuring that the bells, I'm certain you will hear them every night at the witching hour, they will toll throughout the city. They are, in a sense, their guardians, for lack of a better term.
What do you got to guard bell towers?
Well, he says, if you are a superstitious fellow,
I'm not.
Yeah.
you should be, he says, admittingly.
He's from an interesting background. He used to be able to afford not to be suspicious.
Yeah. Well, lay it clean for me. I'd like to know. If something's to be feared, best thing to know is know about it.
I think you already know what that is.
Well, what's worse than the moon falling out of the sky?
The aftermath?
Yeah. Well, at least this ain't Belgain.
People here are still given to lunacy.
We saw a couple cases of that.
Saw more than a couple cases of that.
I'm not here to preach, I apologize.
So, I don't understand.
Forgive my tone.
What's the bell tower still then? Because I don't know what's wrong with it. It seems like silliness to me, but again,
The bell towers.
I'm from the north.
Here, have a drink. He will push the glass across the table. Or the
thank
glass for you.
I've ate your salt in your bread. I'm fine.
The Baroness.
I'll take his drink.
I wouldn't precisely call her a superstitious person before all of this 3 years ago. But the world's changed. It's affected us in all different ways.
Yeah, I'm from Belgain.
So you
The
know.
world's changed.
The world has changed. The Lord Genevieve and the Baroness are no more. That marriage has been annulled. The Baroness now rules Durindal, and her word is law. She is adored by everyone in the city. She, for all of her youth and beauty and impetuousness, she has become incredibly superstitious. After the events of when the blood moon fell from the sky and the attempt upon her life, Master Hexenstern had warned her that because she had fallen from the grace of the Church of Covenant, that one must ward away superstition, must ward away crime, must ward away the darkness. So, she chose of her finest guards, some servants, some manservants, some others, brave soldiers, others who were not soldiers, who had dared to raise, who were brave enough to raise a sword or chairlight, whatever it may be, to defend her life that night. She elevated to the esteemed ranks of being a bell guard. And they are charged with protecting the bell towers throughout the city, which she had erected after 3 years ago. And now they strike every night at the witching hour to ward away spirits and to remind those who would try to beset upon her and her court that the bell guard and Brigandine and all of the city is unified to protect her, for she is the light and the stars and the moon all of Durindal.
Yeah, I'm still not understanding why you have to protect bell towers.
I think it's symbolic.
There's a symbolism certainly there.
Well, you said there was religious reason too.
Well, I mean, only a fool would deny that gods are real. I mean, obviously they're real. There ain't no doubt about that.
You should see how much they pay their lighthouse keepers.
To say there's no sun in the sky type thing. Just don't make no sense.
Mr. Krim, was it?
Aye.
You speak true. A lighthouse keeper must keep the ships from crashing into the shore in the same way that the bell guards must ensure that the people do not leave the light of the Church of the Covenant, and that they enjoy the love that the Baroness Emmanuel, excuse me, not Emmanuel, my apologies, that the Baroness ensures for all the people of Durindal, for she is beloved, and she is the light in this darkness.
Oh, okay. That sums it up, I guess.
I'm reading your orders here, and I do not think that the Dufresne Agency would assign you to a mere lamp lighter.
Well,
Surely.
if you can make more heads and tails of them orders than we can, then
You know, the thing is
go for it.
you ever heard this statement before? Orders is orders. What do? You follow them, you break them and die, or that's it. You got two
It's
choices
right,
as a
good thing we
soldier.
did follow orders. Unless all them kids been absconded.
Sometimes you follow them and die too.
There you go.
We almost did.
Did you spend some time in the military? He inquires. You speak like you're an officer.
Well, you know, it was a hard road to get here. Let's just say that.
He nods.
I've spent
Well,
time
have
in
we
more
even
than one
really
military.
introduced
How
ourselves?
you feel about that?
I think that the agency, he says, almost kind of correcting himself, they choose the right people, as I understand it. Some are soldiers, some are not. Some are more than that. And I take you all from your soldiers. But I also don't take you for order takers either, he says, almost as if he was calling you out if you were assuming you were lying. You're also not order takers either. You are agents of the crown. And that alone means I am above my pay grade here, he admits, kind of leaning back in the chair, almost relaxing for a moment as he kind of recognizes your station.
Right.
So, this business on the river. Tell me how all this started. You see him visibly relax at this point.
Okay.
He visibly relaxes.
You know,
Because it felt like an interrogation.
It did at first, yes.
Yeah,
Until he
okay,
kind of
all
got
right.
out what, yeah.
yeah. No, we are with the Dufresne Agency, and I appreciate you recognizing what sort of situation this is. However, what I did not want to do was to start with tense moments. I wanted to show cooperation because I believe that we are going to need friends.
He says, nodding.
And you seem like a friendly sort. Within reason, as we all are. So, that out of the way, we were lighting lamps, and this man had spoken about the Baroness with a bit of familiarity that would be beyond a lamplighter, and that thought was already in our heads. So,
Good.
we
The Baroness has, I think that most people in the city would say that they know the Baroness. She does not separate herself from the people at all. She is born of common stock.
she is very brave.
She has nothing to fear in this city any longer.
That's good.
He says, almost proclaiming that as his eyes turn toward the brigandine banner across the way.
That's good. I look forward to working in this city then. It seems like an upright place. However, what what we had found, we stopped in to refill on supplies, and there were these clergy members in an orphanage. And you know, even though the orphanage is put up by the clergy, they're not usually manned with many numbers. So the number of clergymen was a bit suspicious at first.
Any orphanages in the city, particularly in Slum Row, I take what you're talking about, operate from donations. There's no means of payment from the Church of Covenant, so most orphanages or any establishments as such would not be within the purview of the Church of the Covenant.
Oh, well, forgive me.
Go on.
So, Day says that the lady who runs the place was batty or a bit off a rocker, and thought that a spirit had come through and eaten the children. Oh, something along
Does that seem incredulous to you? He turns to Harper.
Well, I mean, I heard there would be a lot of things that could happen in this night, but it did seem quite odd to me that the spirit would go through a wall and suck the souls out of, well, a dozen plus children. So, yeah, the story didn't seem to quite add up too much, but, well, anytime you see a cart full of kids and being told they're dead, well, it kind of just breaks your heart a bit.
I noticed these particular clergymen were wearing gambesons. And
so
that
they were
didn't
not clergymen.
That didn't really sit right with me. So I wanted to take a look at the bodies to see if there were more or less signs of abuse. As Terran starts to get a little bothered, and he kind of chokes up for a little bit, and then he calms down again. He says, "But he wouldn't let me see it, and I know it's not the best business to be looking about, but I felt it was necessary, and so I just took the blanket off. And as we started arguing about it, Alistair noticed that one of them was breathing."
What happened from there, Alistair? Mr. Krim?
Well, you know, they didn't like being much called out on their lie, but they obviously hadn't checked the bodies of these children to confirm that they were in fact passed. And, well, they sort of ran out of gambits, so they tried the oldest one. They turned to try to flee. A couple of carts of the kids already made its way down the row. So we got ourselves a little bit of a tussle there. And, well, they didn't turn out so good.
He nods.
So then we went after the others.
Right. I had originally gone in to check the situation inside and came across some disturbing images that the sister apparently had. I think we kind of summed up that she might have been on that Black Lotus. Might have been hallucinating, but we haven't seen hide or hair of her since, well, at all. But well, then I heard the commotion outside, and these fellers had apparently uncovered their ruse, and well, I went and tracked them down. I knew those were two carts left, so I got on Matthew, and we rode on, figured out where they were, and came on back.
Matthew's his horse.
You joined them then, Mr. Steeples?
Oh no, I killed one of the slavers in front of the orphanage. I was part of that uncovering of the ruse, I guess.
Oh, he's stalking him out after.
How'd you get to the ship?
We ran. Once he told us they were, well, the lieutenant questioned one of them, and he sort of gave up some information before he was dispatched. And then we ran. I mean, it's children. It's God's damn children. And slavers. I mean, wasn't a question. Bloody slavers in the city. Ain't my city, but bloody slavers.
So he did what was right. He admits.
Well, I
There's
followed orders.
only one thing worse than that, and that's buggery. Which is what it could have led to, depending on who it was sold to.
So who was on this ship?
The persistent panthers or
Yeah. Persistent vipers?
Only
That's
one
it.
that we seem to know the name of is Druce, and he escaped.
Yeah,
Bald
I
man,
know.
no eyebrows, no hair on his head.
I don't really get to tell you
Blue.
about this, but yeah, I know who that is.
You probably may have noticed their assemblage on the boat.
You know him.
Not personally.
You know of him.
By reputation, he carries a name. He was ain't nothing to fuck around with, which I think should be probably pretty abundantly clear now.
Bloody picked. He spits on the ground.
Hey,
Alright.
filed teeth, blue. The man was blue. What is that?
Blue paint or
Looked like a monster.
tattoos, maybe? I
So-
don't know.
it's probably war paint.
Well, he had 2 pistols on him, that was for sure.
2 pistols, he inquires.
Aye.
Yeah, he
Yeah,
was.
we figured it was the shots that brought you.
Well, that or the
I don't think
flame.
I've ever heard of a picked with pistols.
Well, he was firing them left and right.
I figure you can probably pick enough of them out of me if you want to see what they look like.
He chortles. I don't think we need to do that, but
Then we killed a couple more of the slavers.
Just couldn't get
I
past the last
stupidly
guard,
tried to catch the boat on fire because I thought it would scare them enough to force them in. That did not work.
At some point, we should have a conversation about fire.
Ain't none of your citizens dead. None of your citizens even hurt, other than the fact that they drugged some kids. But we couldn't have done nothing to fuck about that.
Yeah.
he nods.
Alright, and instead of crashing into, those boats in that house, we decided to, take our chances running into the shore. Seems to have
Wise.
paid out.
Probably save more lives than you realize. You know that house there, a number of people were holed up there for the night, praying.
Uh,
No, I didn't know that.
well, looks
I'm
like
glad we.
God's work in mysterious ways.
It was a weird night.
It was penumbrum or whatever.
We were all on edge, that's for sure.
Oh, well, you know what happened from there. Bit of a fire, had to put that out. Kids rustled. Hopefully they're home, the way back home now. And, we're here.
Well, I'd probably expect a visit from the parishioners in that house at some point. They have a way of making themselves known in the city.
Those parishioners?
You'll get to know them, he says.
What parishioners? The ones that were praying in the building we almost crashed into?
That's right.
Are they special parishioners?
Of a kind. I'm sure you'll get to know them soon. He sits up from the table. We should see to your friends. You said that
We
they
should.
are still in Slum Row, right?
Hey,
Yeah, I hold up in
We
the
barricaded them in.
with the remaining children as well.
I think what we can do is we can get a wagon. I'll gather up a posse. We will head out towards Slum Row and see about getting them back to civilization. You all look incredibly rough.
You happen to know an animal mender?
I think.
I'm asking for Matthew. You all need a doctor.
Okay.
I know
pick
some
lives,
people in
by
the
the way.
city, but honestly, Amadeus is going to be the person. Mr. Chandler's going to be the person to speak to.
Then we should.
He's got more pull in the city than I do. He admits.
Well then, let's huff that way then.
If you happen to see a blue-skinned man with a couple of little
Flintlock
side cannons on him,
Filed teeth.
you can tell him we've been looking for him. But I think he got away. I kind of lost consciousness at one point, but I don't see him about. So
There's one left, too.
I think he might be the
That
one.
man.
Yeah, don't mess around with that one.
He nods.
We didn't get them all.
You gather up and you begin to head outside the watchtower. Still hurt, still wounded. The sun is up. It has done little to chase away the autumn cold. It's like really on the verge of like autumn to winter. So most of the leaves have fallen to the ground. You can get kind of really cold at night. It's either really cold or just kind of chilly. That's kind of like waffling between that from a seasonal temperature. But today it's a little chilly. It's kind of a cold, dry air outside. And the people in Durindal begin to kind of come to life, and the city kind of opens up before you. And in the light of day, as you pass over Lovelock Bridge, passing back through Skid Row, along the path you would kind of tread the night before to light up the lamps with Amadeus, you can see that all of Slumrow just lives. I mean, it's absolutely heart-wrenching how much squalor there is through this particular part of the city. And to know that the Baroness would send her bell guard and to put you potentially under an extension of that employ to bring light to people who are so painfully poor, certainly speaks to her character and what she believes in charity that she would bring to those who live in such destitution. You will begin to approach where you had left Amadeus and the children, and you see them gathered outside along with Warren. They're looking toward the orphanage. And we will draw to a close for the night.
All right.
So 100 reward points to everybody.
Yay. Yay. I'm just going to go ahead and give myself that.
So
chaos
corruption.
rank.
Anybody have over 10 corruption?
I have 10.
Right at 10.
Okay, so it's 1 chaos rank automatically. Anybody else earn any corruption tonight?
Maybe one?
So it's 1 order rank.
Come on, guys.
I don't think you
Catch
No, I
up.
didn't.
No, I got
order
0.
rank, that's good.
the
So
first-
order
I
rank
need
for
an
those
order
who
rank.
gain no corruption.
It's the
which is-
first time
No corruption.
I didn't.
So
It happened.
this is actually the end of chapter 1 of Queen of Embers. This is actually intended strictly for a prequel to the real story,
Okay.
to introduce you into kind of the world of Durindal during a particularly auspicious night that will set the tone for the story moving forward as people will adjust to the 3rd anniversary of the assassination of the Baroness Dupre. Obviously, the Dufresne agents will make themselves known, and we will actually pick up next week, obviously. But we'll move forward in time just a little bit in the game world, being established as you are kind of now in Durindal, as the story will continue forward. The things that we can begin to look forward to is actually not only just urban investigation and mystery, it'll eventually probably take you outside the boundaries of the city to the west, and other parts of the Rovane Girdle as well. So there's a lot of fun stuff ahead of us. This won't be strictly an urban adventure.
Okay.
So it'll be. I think we'll have a lot of neat things to do. But I think we'll go ahead and wrap up for tonight. Until then, we will see everyone next week. Thank you all for tuning in, and
Bye, guys.
see you next week. Take care, everybody.
Bye, guys.
Good night.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.